Mr. Petteri Taalas, the Secretary General of World Meteorological Organization, welcome to our screen, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to start with a simple question. How has the climate change over the last 35 years has been recorded?
So we have recordings since the 1850s and especially during the past 50 years we have seen a fairly dramatic warming trend which has exceeded 1 degree and we have seen also changes in the rainfall patterns. We have more drought problems in hitting several areas like Africa, Mediterranean region and several places in southern hemisphere. And we have also seen sea level rise which has been 26 centimeters so far and we have started seeing growing amount of disasters. We have more often strongest tropical storms and also these drought events they have become more frequent. And in the Arabic part of the world we have started seeing extreme heat waves. We have been breaking records temperatures which have exceeded 50 degrees.
And desertification as well?
That's also one of the consequences of these heat waves and lack of rainfall. More often we have drought, so that's one of the challenges. And then we have also more often sand and dust storms which are causing negative impacts on human health and they are also disturbing transport systems.
How are economies of countries around the world affected by these global changes?
So the world has seen uneven impact. The high northern latitudes have benefited its higher temperatures and more rainfall, but most parts of the world have already suffered, especially southern hemisphere and the low latitudes in northern hemisphere. They have seen a GDP drop by more than 2%. And we have seen some extremes. For example, last hurricane season led to drop of GDP of Dominica by 200%, and we have seen GDP drops in African countries related to drought or flooding between 15 and 20%. And last year was single most expensive year on record. The losses were $330 billion.
Is it only the temperature rise that creates problems, or is it also changes in rainfall and drought more to blame?
I think that this global warming is a little bit a misleading term because the biggest impacts of climate change they may be related to changes in the rainfall patterns. So which means that in several parts of the world it means more often drought and when it rains, it often rains more. We have more humidity in the lower atmosphere. That's giving a boost to the rainfalls. So we have also more often flooding problems. And for example, some parts of Asia have been exposed to flooding problems, but also here in USA, for example, during the last hurricane season, we saw severe flooding, and also a couple of weeks ago, this Hurricane Florence, which was hitting Carolina, we had severe flooding problems.
In the year 2013, the global concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is the primary driver of recent climate change, reached 400 parts per million ppm and was regarded as a wake-up call. Has things improved?
Unfortunately not. So we have been breaking 410 ppm of carbon dioxide, and this negative trend has continued for decades already, and one has estimated that we had such high concentrations last time 3 million years ago, and then temperatures were 2 to 4 degrees warmer than today, and the sea level was 10 to 30 meters higher than today. So this current 400 ppm 410 ppm level is a risky level.
What is the worst scenario for our Mother Earth?
So if we use all of the known fossil fuel resources, we would reach 8 degrees warmer planet, and the lifetime of carbon dioxide is tens of thousands of years. So we would have warmer planet for tens of thousands of years, and we would have less favorable conditions for agriculture on this planet, whereas our population is still growing, so we would have great difficulties in
Food security.
feeding the growing population. So that's to me the main concern, and there are some studies showing that already 3 degrees warming, which is something fairly likely to happen this century, would lead to a fairly negative impact on the global food security. So that's my main concern.
Yes. You must be an optimistic man to work in this field, because all the signs are doom and gloom. But what gives you more optimism?
I'm a man of action, and luckily we have now technical and also economic means to combat climate change. For example, the renewable energy solutions, they are most attractive for the investors. That means solar and wind energy, and we have also new means of transportation. We can have more electric vehicles, and we can also prepare diet which is more climate friendly. So all the means for solving this problem exist, and we just have to give a boost and raise our level of ambition on climate mitigation. So I'm slightly optimistic, and we have started moving in the right direction, but so far the speed has been too slow.
When we reached an agreement in Paris at the end of the many trials and many summits, I was in Copenhagen summit, of course I was also one in South America. How concerned are you that the United States has pulled out of the Paris Agreement?
So legally it takes 4 years to pull out of the agreement.
Okay.
So we still, it may happen in the coming years if they so decide, but so far it's not legally possible. It takes 4 years before one can leave the agreement, and one should keep in mind that plenty of positive things are also happening in USA. For example, the city of New York, where we are today, has decided to have fairly ambitious climate mitigation policy, and that's happening also in the state of California, and also the private sector is very much investing in solar and wind energy, and electric vehicles. Tesla cars are produced in this country, so the overall situation is not so black. It's perhaps a little bit grayish, but I think that things are moving in a positive direction also in this country.
There are still many people in the world who doubt the whole science of climate change, including President Trump. What do you say to these people?
I think that the scientific facts are very clear, and we have seen the change happening according to the model estimates that were made already in the 80s. So we have so this scientific proof is really solid, and of course I would be very happy to be wrong. So it would be great news if we would be wrong. And of course science has a nature that if there are mistakes, they are corrected in the future. But so far we have been proceeding according to the climate scenarios that were published already in the late 80s.
Time is catching up. I have one last question concerning the effect of climate change on world security and country security, with waves of immigrations and fights for water, etc. Can you tell our viewers something about that?
So we have already seen impacts of climate change on the stability of the countries. One reason behind so-called Arab Spring, which was hitting Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, and Syria, was a severe drought that led to a rise of the food price and unemployment of the young rural population, and that was one of the reasons behind Arab Spring. It was not the only reason, but it was already boosting it, and we have seen boosting of the crisis by drought in Somalia, South Sudan, and also Yemen. So, and that's causing more refugee problems and migration problems, and also instability in the countries. And unfortunately, we expect that trend to continue in the coming decades.
Would you call climate change as the biggest threat for humanity?
That's at least from my perspective. Of course, I may be a little bit biased as a former atmospheric scientist, but I fully agree with you that it's a major risk for the well-being of the humankind.
Mr. Petteri Taalas, the Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, we thank you for your time and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Bringing awareness. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you.